Welcome to this episode of The Good, The Bad and The Odd One Out with your host Mark. Today I'd like to talk about two movies, 2001, A Space Odyssey and 2010. Okay, 2001, Space Odyssey came out in 1968. It didn't win Oscar for Best Film. He lost that to Oliver, which I think is one of the things film scholars tend to point out about weaknesses of the Oscars. That's a particular sort of point because of the sort of technical aspects of filmmaking that 2001 brought to the arena. However, I kind of really like Oliver, so it's never been that much of a problem for me. However, 2001 was kind of mind-blowing at the time. One of the reasons obviously is Kubrick's a great filmmaker, but also some of the effects in it are quite stunning. Still look really good because of the great model work. And I think this really shook things up quite a bit. It's a film with big ideas. It's in 3 parts, dealing with men as apes, men as explorers on the moon, and then men as explorers to even further reaches to Jupiter. And encompasses a number of sort of quite big ideas. It's a big ideas kind of film. Possibly the nature of intelligence, the nature of God, what it means, and what Kubrick seems to be going for with this film is visuals rather than anything else. I've read that he's intended it to almost be a silent film. The dialogue's deliberately quite kind of small talk in a lot of it. Apart from the interactions with Hal, I guess, it's the dialogue isn't that memorable. It's about little things. To me, the film, when I first saw the film in a reissue in the UK when I was about 12, I think. It was reissued. This was kind of just about pre-video. So you just did not see films, unless they were on the TV or your cinema, they were reissued in cinemas. And reissues did happen quite a bit. You just didn't get to see certain films. And 2001 was one I wanted to go and see. And I remember going and seeing it. And I was in a pretty empty cinema when I saw it the first time, and being so struck and blown away by it, though not really understanding it that well. I went back the very next day and watched it again. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I've seen it many times over the years, and I usually enjoy it quite a bit. But there have been times I've sat and watched it, and I thought, this feels a bit slow, feels a bit pretentious, and kind of feeling bored. I think I'm trying to decide whether it's part of the modern age, I'm just used to films being a lot faster, or whether it's just I watched it in not the right frame of mind. I think it's probably not the right frame of mind. So this material I think needs to be taken as what it is, which is kind of art, rather than fun. However, that doesn't mean it's boring necessarily. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you can watch it and it's awe-inspiring. It can be really, really awe-inspiring. I do enjoy this film. I particularly enjoy the section where Hal starts going nuts. And there's some creepiness to it. It's a man-made thing that starts going wrong and starts being destructive against man. And what sends it that way? Is it the monolith? Is there some power? Or is it just that's the nature of man's essence? I mean, part of the thing is this film shows the link between aggression and progress quite distinctly in a massively famous cut shot, cutting between a bone thrown in the air and a space station. I think it's a wonderful film, actually. Even though there's times I've felt it was boring, there's other times I've really, really enjoyed it. And I'd give it 90 out of 100, without a doubt. The ape makeup at the beginning holds up. When I first saw it, I couldn't make out what they were. I thought, well, there ain't no such apes as that. But they can't be men. But as I got older, I've recognised they are made up men. And it is kind of funny that this year 1968, the Planet of the Apes won the award for best makeup, and one of the reasons was that the Academy didn't realise Kubrick's apes were men in makeup. They thought maybe they were real apes. It's kind of funny that the makeup's so good you don't realise it's makeup. I would thoroughly recommend this film. It's worth watching, but you have to be in the right frame of mind. It's glacial in its pacing, really is slow, but there's something to be had out of it. I'm trying to decide whether it's better to go into it knowing the story or not. I'd say not, but as soon as you watch the film, you might want to go and Google it and try and figure out what's going on. That might help. The film itself's been parodied a few times in various films. The most famous one is probably in Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1, where the apes find a monolith. That's pretty good homage. Right, I've talked about the visuals of this film. The other thing that's kind of beautiful about the film is the music. Kubrick's used and sampled a number of classical tracks for this movie. The most famous of which is Thus Spake Zarathustra, really heavily associated with this movie. Great piece of music and suitable for this music. It's got a transcendence kind of feel in the music, and it just works. How Kubrick achieved some of the shots in this of like planets and sunrise and things like that, I have no idea. It just looks really spectacular. Again, the model work is really terrific. And the Stargate sequence, I kind of see how that was done. I think, I remember being at the cinema thinking, almost feeling I was part of the ride. It goes on so long, it's kind of mesmeric. You can see its influence in other films. Most recently, I saw its influence in a Ben Wheatley film called A Field in England. There's definitely sort of analogues of 2001, especially the Stargate sequence in this film too. What's the film about? I've already sort of suggested it might be showing that aggression and progress are linked. It might trying to explain what God might be. It might be trying to say, right, okay, we are humans. We think we're the height of evolution, but we're just another evolutionary step. That's all we are. It could be about lots of things. That's one of its beauties. It was interesting. It was kind of clinical, and there's a Russian filmmaker called Tarkovsky who took exception to its clinicalness and lack of humanity. And it's kind of interesting that a film about humanity is so clinical. It is kind of, and he made his answer to it in a Russian sci-fi movie called Solaris, which I would recommend too. In fact, I think I prefer Solaris a little over this. Solaris is a big, complex, meaty kind of film to get your teeth into. Looks beautiful. They'd make a great double pair if you've got a long afternoon and you're in a very relaxed, patient kind of mood. Performance of the film, to me, funny enough, is Hal. It just really works well. That scary, relaxed voice of Hal's, who's kind of menacing, and the most revealing bit about humanity, and the bit that I think engages you emotionally the most, is where Hal has to be decommissioned. And he's slowly reverting to a kind of childlike state. Very interesting. I enjoyed it. Good film. I'd recommend it. Right, that moves on to 2010. This was made, I think, 16 years later. Now, where I've seen 2001 many times, I've only just seen 2010 recently. However, I was quite impressed how they've kept up Peter Hyams, who directed, I think, wrote, has kept up the continuity in terms of look or feel. It does look in many respects like 2001. Look, similar kind of designs. He's made an effort to use model work, and while his special effects aren't quite as good as the earlier film, bizarrely, because there's some matting problems, the models look really nice, and it kind of works. Roy Scheider's the main protagonist in this, and he's really good. But this is ultimately a much kind of smaller film. It's a thriller. It's a thriller in essence. One thing I will say about I think 2001 stands alone entirely. It's one of Kubrick's finest works. Kubrick made a load of great films, but I think 2001 is probably the apex. Probably. But the 2010 kind of is a footnote almost to the other film. It does explain what happened with Hal, which is kind of interesting, why he went mad. So that is possibly a reason to watch it if you're interested. I kind of enjoyed it. It was okay as a thriller. I'd still give it sort of 70 out of 100. It was a capable film. It's just not on the same sort of scale and canvas as the first one. Some of the motifs of it, which is, we have to work together if we're going to survive, kind of felt... I was going to say it feels dated, but actually these days it doesn't feel as dated as it would have done maybe 10 or 12 years ago, where, the Cold War was over and things were on the up. Now we're in a recession and a terror, international terrorism's sort of dominating somewhat. It kind of feels less old-fashioned, archaic as a motif than it did before. It was alright. I kind of enjoyed it. A footnote really to 2001, but worth a look in my opinion. Okay, there's my thoughts on those two. If you want to leave any feedback, you can email us at info@thegoodthebadandtheodd.com. Feel free to send us an MP3 if you want to leave some audio. That'd be great. Okay, bye from me. Do